Can you tell that your period is about to arrive because of the emotional symptoms that you're experiencing? Did you know that emotions like anger, sadness, worry all tell a story about what kind of physical support your body needs in order to be in better balance? Join me this week as we take a look at what is your body telling you and how you can address it so that you can start your period with very few symptoms.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your menstrual health, offering period solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about emotions. Yes, we've talked about emotions before, but this is a little different than when we've talked about emotions in the past. So, when we talk about PMS or premenstrual syndrome, most people are like, yes, I get emotional. Well, emotions can be all kinds of things when it comes to PMS. And one thing that I really think is very fascinating is when you're understanding the body from a traditional Chinese medicine lens, you start to gain an appreciation for emotions and what they're trying to tell you. So, I've said in past episodes that our body is trying to communicate with us. And we just haven't been taught to look at it that way. So, a lot of times when we're having symptoms, we lament those symptoms, we groan, we get frustrated, we get angry about the fact that we're having symptoms again and it's controlling our quality of life. And it doesn't have to be that way. So, this episode is to actually give you a little insight into the fact that PMS can actually come with a wide range of emotions and that every one of those emotions tells you something about how the body is asking for love and support. That's right. The symptoms are a form of communication. And yes, sometimes it's kind of a rude form of communication, depending on what it is that you're seeing for symptoms. But I think that it's really important that we understand that pain tells us something isn't moving well in the body. And we've talked about that in a recent episode. But emotions aren't any different. So, Chinese medicine attributes different emotions to different organs, and I'm using that with a capital O, the way that Chinese medicine talks about it. And when you have certain emotions, it means there's an imbalance in one of those organs in the body. So when we get irritable and angry before our period starts, that's a pretty common one. I've had clients come to me and refer to them as their fire breathing dragon days, or the days that they could just leave and go to a deserted island and not interface with people until their bleed begins because everything it just sets them off and they're really easily angered or frustrated. Those types of emotions typically come from an imbalanced liver, for example. Now, again, I am using the word liver with a capital L, the way that they talk about it in Chinese medicine. Yes, does it do some of the functions that the Western system understands? Absolutely. However, the liver has energetic functions in the Chinese medicine system as well. And it's one of the reasons why I love Chinese medicine because I feel like it gets to a deeper understanding of what it is that's going on in the system. So, anger tells us a story. It can sometimes tell us a story of circulation as well. So, if we are looking at PMDD, for example, I was in a forum on Facebook a little while ago, and there was a big discussion happening about I have PMDD. How do I work with this? It's, running my life and, affecting my relationships with other people. What can I do about it other than go on medication, which was the solution that her doctor was offering her. And she didn't feel aligned with the medication option. And so she had put this question out in this forum, and there were lots of people chiming in. Well, Chinese medicine understands this as energy and fluids in the body are not moving appropriately. And the slower they move and the more stuck or stagnant they become, it's usually more of like a stasis pattern, the more heightened that anger and aggression gets. So, when we're able to support the body and help energy move freely and fluids move freely in the body, and this could be from, exercising proper period care. I have a little mini course about period care if you're interested in checking that out. It's short, sweet, and to the point. It talks about foods that you can eat during that window to support your body, how to dress, what to do, the kinds of movement that's going to be supportive. It's just a really quick, helpful little overview in terms of how do I properly care for my body so that I don't end up so symptomatic. A lot of times, people just dressing and eating right will see a difference between PMDD level symptoms and PMS, which is like a lesser intense version. And I know those of you that suffer with PMS do not feel like it's less intense, but it is like kind of on a scale. Like PMS is not as intense in terms of the emotions and the outbursts and things like that as PMDD is. So I think that it's helpful to understand that the level of frustration can indicate the level of support that the body needs. Sometimes people will use the word emotional when they're talking to me in appointments. And for any of you who are listening who do work with me, you're probably rolling your eyes at the fact that I always, when people go, "Oh, I'm emotional before my period," and I'm just like, okay, let's unpack that. Tell me what kind of emotions you're experiencing because, we tend to use these blanket terms like we get emotional before our period, but we don't actually like break down like what emotions we're experiencing. Is it sadness? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling like any little thing is going to make you cry? All of these speak to what part of the body needs a little bit more love and support. So I always dive into what that word emotional means. We are all emotional creatures, and it is not uncommon. Honestly, we should experience emotions. It's part of our safety system, right? But sometimes when our emotions feel out of control or out of place, or like, man, there's nothing going on in my life that should be making me feel this way right now, but I'm totally feeling this way right now. You might want to look and see where you are vis-a-vis the start of your cycle. These emotions are helpful because each one, anger, sadness, worry is a big one. I have some clients that get straight up paranoid just before their period begins. They think their relationships are ending every single month before they start their bleed. They worry more about their kids to the point where they lose sleep, all of those types of things. And then as soon as the bleed begins, the worry goes away. I've had partners that have actually indicated to the client that I'm working with, the partner will go, "Yeah, oh, I know your period's coming because of fill in the blank emotional symptom." You don't tend to be that way until just before the bleed begins. So it's really helpful to kind of take a closer look at what emotions you're experiencing because they will tell you the internal story of what's going on and how you can help yourself. So, worry is a big one. Worry is the emotion of the unbalanced spleen. Now, I say spleen, capital S, the way they talk about it in Chinese medicine, remember? And you can help that feeling and the craving for carbs and sugar, which usually also accompany it in the PMS timeframe, with adding yellow and orange vegetables to your daily routine. I love a sweet potato. It's high in fiber. It has a lot of minerals and nutrients in it. It falls into that orange category and usually takes care of those sugar cravings. I tend to err on the side of that unbalanced earth element side of things. So, worry for me is one that tends to come up more often than irritability or anger, and then crying about being worried, right? So, ask yourself the next time that you step into that premenstrual window, what emotions am I experiencing? Are they extreme? Were they present before I stepped into this window? And do they go away after my bleed? Sometimes we're just too busy to pay attention to see if they do resolve themselves or those shifts do take place. It's not a bad thing when you haven't paid close attention to it. I want to just kind of preface that for a second. I'm sharing with you something that we should be taught and often aren't. And then we get lots of memes online making jokes. Like, I can't tell you how many rooms I've stepped into to introduce myself and my work, and it's always a guy. Sorry, but it's true. It's always a guy that goes, "Oh, do you fix moody problems before periods?" And I used to get so offended at that question. Like, it just seemed stereotypical and sexist, and the feminist in me just used to get really fucking mad when somebody would ask that question, like, "Do you fix PMS?" and then laugh, and then all the other guys in the room laugh. Well, then I started reframing. I had to get over being pissed off about it first, but then I started reframing it and saying, "Oh, it sounds like your partner's body is in need of some support that it's not receiving. I'd be happy to have a conversation because I can't imagine that she feels good feeling that way." And that stops people in their tracks. Because when we feed into this, the time before our bleed is supposed to be this hellacious experience, then we believe that emotional symptoms and physical symptoms are normal, and they're not. In a past episode, I've talked about the physical symptoms and that these are all your body's way of trying to communicate with you. When you have cramping, when you get bloated, all of those kinds of things are the way that your body's trying to say, "Hey, I need some support. Period poops shouldn't be a thing." But the emotional body isn't a separate thing. It also communicates the same way that the physical body does, where it's like, "Here, I'm trying to send you a signal that something is out of balance in here." And again, it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love Chinese medicine and that connection between the physical body and the emotional body that's made in Chinese medicine, because our emotions aren't separate. They are one more line in a list of symptoms that point to where we can provide that love and support to our bodies.
I'm going to pause this incredible episode to share an opportunity for you to join me as a reproductive rebel. As you know, I'm a holistic women's health practitioner who practices with a focus in East Asian medicine. I truly am one of a kind in the way that I practice, and that is a part of what makes me a rebel. I am here to disrupt a healthcare model for women and provide natural and effective solutions for all phases in a woman's life. Do you feel called to make a difference in women's health? Whether you are already a practitioner working in this space, wishing to add to your toolkit, or you are just a passionate rebel with a calling to make a difference for others, as I was at the start of my career in this field, the Holistic Women's Health Practitioner Program is open for enrollment. I am looking for passionate, committed, and heart centered people who desire to make a difference in the women's health space and desire to make it a place where women feel seen and heard, where their needs and concerns aren't gaslit, but really taken seriously and met with compassion and education to help them reach their goals. Does this sound like you? If so, please check out the program link in the show notes and schedule a one on one talk with me or join a free information session. Or if you know that without a doubt this is where you want to go, enroll and get started today. Together, we will make a difference for the future of women's healthcare. I can't wait for you to join me.
I have never met anyone as charismatic and downright passionate about women's health as Adrienne Irizarry is. Not only is it just a delight to be in her presence as a friend, but as a student, her passion for her work, it comes through so prominently, and it helps ignite the excitement that lives inside of me as her student. We literally laugh, we cry, we share, we support. The knowledge is endless, and the infinite capacity of her being for this work and teaching and mentoring is just astounding. It's so beautiful. I can't think of a better instructor to be working with this topic. We are powerful. Women hold the most beautiful power within their beings. And Adrienne is the perfect example of she. She is the epitome of woman.
And now, back to the show. So, learning to take note of what kinds of symptoms come up for you, emotional or physical, before your period begins will help give you some insight into what's going on in your body. And then you can work with a practitioner like me or my staff, and we'll help you create balance, because really and truly, you shouldn't have any symptoms before your period starts, emotional or physical. It should just appear. And I can't tell you, over the years, and I always smile and get a lot of joy out of that very first period when somebody has come to me with, symptoms they've been struggling with, and they go, "It just snuck up on me, Adrienne. It just appeared. I didn't have any of my normal telltale signs that it was coming. I just woke up and there was blood. And then the rest of the period, had nothing really to note." That's the period that everybody deserves to have and is totally achievable when we know how to identify what's going on inside of our system. It's so critically important to me as a practitioner to help educate people about what it is that their body is trying to tell them, because you're the person that's in the driver's seat of your bus. You have to live in this body. And maybe you've gone several months with no emotional symptoms whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, you have 1 month where for 5 days before your period starts, you feel like a fire breathing dragon. You just want to burn the whole village down. Anybody looks at you sideways, you've got a hair trigger. You just absolutely do not have patience for anything. And then the bleed starts, and you're like, "Oh, I don't feel so stressed out anymore." So, learning how to go, "Oh, I was angry this month. That's not normal for me. What happened this month that might have encouraged that to appear?" Maybe you had a really stressful month. Maybe you had extra hours at work, or you took on a side hustle and it was a little bit too much output for what your body actually had on board. And that extra stretch, that extra stress on your system ended up resulting in maybe having slightly more pain and definitely some irritability where you don't normally have any, right? So it gives you a totally different lens with which to look at your symptoms instead of just having it be this joke that everybody shares about, oh, well, she must be getting close to the period because she's a total bitch. Like, how many times have you heard people say that? Or they'll make this side tongue in cheek joke about you standing up for yourself and you using your words, right, to hold your ground around something. And they'll be like, what? Are you on the rag or something? Oh, every time somebody used to say that to me, then I'd actually get mad. Like, I might just be trying to exercise boundaries around something and be like, no, I'm just telling you this is how I feel. And here's my boundary. And oftentimes it gets taken when it's delivered by a female as being brash. I've been told that in past jobs. And I'm like, I'm not being brash. If I was a male delivering the same information, then you would think that I was confident. But because I'm a female delivering this information, now I get labeled with these negative terms. Our periods have gotten so much negative press, and it really is due to a lack of understanding of how the body is trying to communicate with us. So I encourage you, if you've never taken the time to really pay attention, you just know you feel off in your body, period poops are disruptive, but you haven't really paid attention to your premenstrual symptoms, I would encourage you to take a closer look at it and see, am I having emotions? Which emotions are prominent? Am I quick to snap at people? Am I quick to cry? Do I feel like a recluse? Do I want to just be alone and not have anyone near me? That going inward to be more introverted is actually totally normal. But if it is to prevent you from biting somebody's head off, then it's connected with irritability or anger. Okay. Irritability is like low lying irritation, anger is more intense. Kind of like PMS is more low lying symptoms, and PMDD is intense amounts of rage and anger. So it will give you an idea of how severe your underlying needs are. Maybe you haven't had enough time off, or maybe you haven't been able to nourish your body well, or you haven't been able to rest, or you've had a lot of stress in a short period of time. Our bodies are really sensitive to stress anytime during the month, but they are exceedingly sensitive to stress in those 7 days leading up to our period beginning. So while we can't bubble wrap ourselves and keep all of the annoyances away, at the same time, being able to pace ourselves and acknowledging, hey, I'm in this window. I'm apt to be a little more sensitive to stress. Maybe I don't overbook myself. Or maybe I need to block an hour here or an hour there to just stare at the wall. Like, you don't have to be doing something. You do not have to be stimulating yourself with crap on your phone, doom scrolling, none of that shit. Like, just giving your mind and eyes and body a break from the tempo of modern day life, because it is too high and it is built around a 24-hour testosterone schedule. Our workday is built out around a 24-hour testosterone schedule. Those who are testosterone dominant human beings, they tend to really have an equilibrium. They do not have an intense change in their emotions or how they move through the day or anything like that. They get a steady burst of testosterone and they're able to essentially go to sleep and wake up feeling the same way. Bodies that have cycles are totally different. You have a rise of estrogen, then you have a little peak of testosterone in the middle of the month, and you have a rise in progesterone in the latter part of the month. And all of those hormones are imperative for healthy function and bone density and all of those kinds of things. But if we are overstressing ourselves during certain rises and falls during the month, it makes us deficient in all the other ways. So, this episode is to encourage you to take a closer look. What are you feeling? When are you feeling it? How intensely are you feeling it? And that's all really good information to be able to sit down with a practitioner from my practice, Moon Essence, or another TCM practitioner and begin the conversation around I'm having symptoms just before menstruation at PMS, and I would like some support. Here's what I have for information. Because when you work with an East Asian practitioner, the more that you have for data around your emotional body as well as physical symptoms, the better they can help you. So, I would highly recommend checking out my period care course. It's short, sweet, and to the point, but it gives you some really good insight in terms of like basic everyday kinds of things that you can do to take care of your body while it's bleeding that actually set you up for there to be fewer emotional symptoms as well as physical symptoms when the period is getting ready to return again the next month. Your period is an organic computer printout that takes a look at how have I lived my month? Have I rested enough? Have I burnt the candle at both ends? Have I fed myself well enough? Like all of those kinds of things. It's one of the reasons that women live as long as they do is because we have this feedback that our period gives us every month in terms of how did we take care of ourselves? Did we do too much? Do we need to care for ourselves in some key ways that we haven't been paying attention to? So start with your emotions and the period care course. It's a really great opportunity to learn ways to take care of our body in a way that we haven't been typically taught. And, you can always reach out and schedule an appointment with one of our practitioners to be able to have a deeper conversation around what it is that you're seeing so that those symptoms don't have to be so disruptive. But definitely keep an eye out. I'm always releasing courses and one on one opportunities for people to gain insight into their body because our emotions tell a story and they don't happen arbitrarily. And knowing what it is that you're seeing will help you help yourself and empower you to be able to care for yourself in all the important ways that you need.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.